There we go. My mic was not set up to the correct mic. Good morning, folks. Hope everyone doing well. Let me know if you can hear me. Everything looks like it's working on my side now. So let's dig into prep. Yesterday, we were stuck in that range between that 39.96, that 40.20. Thanks, guys. Yep, glad you can hear me. So we stayed in that range. I called out early that I was expecting us to pop up to that 40.20, then reject back down to that 39.96. That's where we bought the puts off of that squeeze top rejection. Came down to the bottom where we locked up our puts and called out the 400 call long. It had kind of a slow go and then finally got going. Then called out puts again, back down to lows before close. There was a little rally at the end there, but overall, we got it up overnight. NVIDIA earnings, great reaction. We'll see it's up near 229, 230. So overall, we're opening near the top of yesterday's range, and we have a little 30-minute squeeze trying to hold us up here. So at the bottom of that 30-minute squeeze down near our pre-market lows and kind of in the middle of yesterday's range, 4,008 is basically the bottom of that 30-minute squeeze. So as long as we're holding above 4,008, we should be looking for a potential long back up. We start to give out 4,008, we'll fire that 30-minute squeeze down into this 1 hour and 2 hour squeeze that is around us near yesterday's highs and lows. Kind of like yesterday, I would be expecting us to hold this 30-minute squeeze bottom. I mean, we just had our GDP and unemployment data come out, and while we had a negative reaction, we did not give out pre-market lows on SPY. We did not give out those pre-market lows on ES, trying to hold for right now. So overall, looking for us to try to hold near this squeeze bottom, near those pre-market lows once the cash session opens. We could even slip them for a second, but then trying to look for a long back up to the squeeze top to try to push higher than yesterday's high and pre-market highs around 40.25. But with the 2 hour squeeze still looming over us, I'm kind of expecting us to push into it, maybe get up to 40.35, maybe 40.40, but then we'll likely see some rejection to come back. Overall, we are still stuck in yesterday's range. We should play the range just like we did yesterday till it breaks. So let's see if we can hold early and start to catch a bounce up. If we start to give out that 4,008, target back down to that 39.96, the bottom of the squeeze. Our daily squeeze doing its job to hold up, even though we've slipped into it a little bit. We could easily see a reversal after a strong drive up. We got back below the mean. We're at the daily 50 and at the squeeze bottom. These things line up perfectly sometimes so that we could hold, get through this data and start to rally. Let's look at our economic data real quick. Man. Reload. I was hoping they'd get... Okay, yeah, they finally did get it caught up. Okay. So we had jobless claims GDP at 8:30. Overall, slight miss on GDP, but still decent. We do have a Fed speaker at around 11 and another one at 2 p.m. Tomorrow we have consumer spending, personal income, PCE, home sales. So all that was before the bell. Then at 10 a.m. we have home sales, consumer sentiment, some Fed speakers all morning and all day. So tomorrow, very likely to be volatile. And since it's a lot of data coming out, we could be in another choppy day where we stay in range. So with such tight squeezes, we should be prepared for that. But, I kind of think we'll gravitate towards one end of the squeeze for a good portion of the day, which then kind of sets us up to fire it overnight or into that data tomorrow morning. So looking into next week, it's a little light, right? We do have some stuff on Monday. We had some stuff on Tuesday, but none of these things are like big. They're not CPI, PCE, GDP, FOMC, none of that. So while we do have some stuff next week, it is pretty darn light going into March. The next FOMC meeting isn't near the end of March. So we have a couple of weeks here coming up where it's going to get a little lighter on the economic data. There could be a little run back up into the next rate hike. So coming back in, we do, we have obviously been in a downtrend. And let's see. Go something in here. Yeah, drawing trend lines, it's not the cleanest, but we could be starting to break through the down trend line. Let's make this a little less extreme. That's much better. So just saying, we have had a downtrend line. We could start to break through that. Buyers step in and we start to fire these squeezes to the upside this week into next week. Obviously, the other side of the coin, we can continue to push against this daily squeeze bottom, push against these lows, and get down to this daily 200 down at 39.50. So let's see if we can hold 4,008. Let's see if we can break through 40.25 and try to push up to this trend line, to the squeeze top. But still going to play the range. If we reject the 40.20s and start to roll over, going to short down to that 4,008. If that starts to give out, 39.96. Then down to yesterday's lows, 39.83. On the path to that 39.61, 39.50. So we've got our upside, downside targets on ES. Let's move on. In Q, did a decent job holding above 12,000, 12,100. Let's see if pre-market low and 30-minute squeeze bottom can hold if we do have a dip. So looking for that 12,150 to try to hold, get us up above this 12,200, which we're doing a decent job holding above right now. To the upside, I want to see us break through 12,250, 260, where the daily 21 sits. Then it'd be a play up to 12,325, where the daily 8 sits. And then if we can get to 12,400, that engulfs, this week's down, this week's selling, sorry. But if we reject squeeze tops, start to come down and lose 12,150, you want to target back to that 100, back to 12,000, and 11,950, where the daily 200 sits in Q. On ready. Let's see if we can hold above 1900. It's going to be a good gauge early on. If it can hold 1900 and start to pop up to pre-market highs quickly, we can see the other indices try to follow suit. If it starts to lose 1900 quickly, it'll be a good gauge. So keep an eye on ready. If we lose 1900, target back to 1890, 1885, where we held yesterday. Below that down to 1870, 1866, where the daily 50 sits. We can hold 1900, start to push through 1910, 1915. Target up to 1920 where the daily 21, daily 8 sit together. Anything past that, 1941. YM. Hanging out down in this daily squeeze bottom. And you can see we have a 30-minute, 1 hour, 2 hour down in this daily squeeze bottom. Basically looking for us to try to hold 33,100 early. If we can hold there, start to push up through 33,200 near the pre-market highs. Then looking for it to get up to 33,300 at the top of the 2 hour squeeze. We start to lose 33,100, target back to 33,000 where we got down to yesterday. Yesterday's low, 32,976. And the next key level, 32,900. Apple did a great job holding the daily 200 on Apple around that 147.25. Called that out yesterday, and that key level 147.5. Now having a nice gap up. You know, tech is strong this morning, trying to lead. So overall, looking for Apple to try to stay above 149.5 early. We start to lose that, we're going to come back to fill the gap near 149, 148.9. But as long as we can hold that 148.9, if we do come back to fill the gap, you know, looking for us to get back up to 150 and then try to push up to 151 where the 4 hour squeeze top sits with the daily 8. If we start to lose that 149, we want to target back to 148, 147.5 at the bottom of the squeeze, back to the daily 200. AMD, haha, yeah. So I called out yesterday before close. The AMD 80 call was around 25 cents near our open range buy zone. And it was a good strike to play in sympathy with NVIDIA if NVIDIA had a good reaction. Those 80 calls now will be opening in the money. Loving it. So it should at least be a double, if not a triple, from that like 25, 27 cents off of our beast level, that open range buy zone. Over on NVIDIA, let's see if it can, or I'm sorry, on AMD, let's see if it can keep pushing through 80.5, 81. You know, there's basically every half point. There's a number of levels that have been key wicks in the past. Overall, the daily 15 is kind of the highest target to aim for, up near 83. But already gapping up pretty darn well, 76 to 80. Yeah, it's already over an ATR, so definitely lock some profit on those at open. But you do still have till tomorrow on expiration on those 80 calls that I called out before close yesterday. Moving on, if it starts to lose 79.8, you know, where the daily 8 sits, definitely lock maybe the majority of your profit. It's probably going to drop back down to 78.9, kind of where the daily 21, daily 200 are sitting together. Amazon. Was very strong yesterday in the morning, and then, having a nice little gap up near the highs of yesterday. See if we can hold above 96. We start to lose that, probably coming back to 95.5, 95 near yesterday's lows. But if we can hold 96, looking forward to try to get through 97, push up to basically 98, where the daily 8, daily 21 are kind of straddling 98. Google. This one's just, they took it out behind the shed, and they're leaving it to think about that poor AI performance they did. So not really loving this one. Upside target 93.5, where the daily 50 sits. Downside target 89.5. Next key levels. Meta. Again, XLC as a whole is just kind of taking a break. Meta, some small movements yesterday, did a good job holding 170. If we can keep going to the upside, you want to target up to 175, 176 at the top of the 2-hour squeeze. Maybe 178 where the daily 15 sits. If it starts to lose 72, probably coming back to retest 170 at the bottom of the squeeze. The daily 21 down at 167 and a half-ish. Microsoft, a little weaker yesterday, but I'm loving this gap up above yesterday's highs, right near that 255. So let's see if we can keep going. Target up to 256 and a half where the daily 21 sits, up to 259 where the daily 8 sits, 260 key psych level. But if we reject squeeze tops and come back to lose 253, target back down to 251, 250 at the bottom of the squeeze. And the daily 50 down at 246, 247 if those squeezes fire to the downside. Netflix, definitely weak compared to everything else, gapping down. But getting back to this key 330, 333, this was that old earnings gap that got filled. This is where the top of it sits. And the daily 50 has caught up to that 330. So could be a decent spot, as silly as it might sound, after all this down, where they start to build a position to try to reverse it. We are getting below that daily squeeze. And it could start to fire as well, giving us more momentum to the downside. So if we lose 330, target down to that first Keltner there at 326 and a half-ish, let's call it. If that starts to give out, we're going to 320, 315. But if we can start to hold up this 330, that pre-market low, that daily Keltner, and reverse back up, you want to target 335, 340 near yesterday's highs, and then 348, 350 where the daily 8, daily 21 sit. NVIDIA, sheesh. Held the daily 21 yesterday, closed around 207, now up to 235, 234, sorry. What a gap up, very strong, pretty much almost up to third Keltner. Overall, with something gapping up this much, I'd just be looking at some of these pre-market levels where we did have a little pullback, or overnight levels, sorry, where we rejected 226, pulled back to 223. That is going to be kind of your support if we do see some profit taking that brings it back. VWAP around 230, so we see a little pullback. Watch 230, watch 226 as potential bounce points. If this thing can keep trucking, 237, 240 next stop, and then 245, 250. But yeah, pretty darn good reaction. And chips going to get some rotation today. There might be some profit taking, but chips have been leading us a little bit to the downside into this earnings. We talked about this like a week or so ago, off of the MA cloud, or I'm sorry, the daily MA levels that we bounced at. I remember talking about in one of my preps, NVIDIA has earnings coming up. We can see all of chips take a little bit of fade into that earnings just for them to run it back up. So pick your favorite chip and keep an eye on it today. I'm going to manage some of that AMD position, maybe add to it depending on how the reaction goes. QQQ, back up near the daily 21 at the top of these squeezes, having a great gap up pre-market. If we do reject these squeezes and come down to test, watch the pre-market lows near 295.5, 296. At the bottom of that 30-minute squeeze, if we start to give that out, we'll be firing back down into the middle or the bottom of yesterday's range. You'd want to target down to 294, 293 at the bottom of that squeeze under yesterday's lows. But if we can hold up that 295.5, 296 support on any dips, Looking for us to try to get through this 297.5 daily 21, 298 where the squeeze top sits, to fire up to 299, 300 where the daily 8 sits. SPY. All about 400. Pre-market lows kind of near that 399.8. So a little 20-cent range of support. If we take a dip there, want to see us hold and rally right back up through 401 through pre-market highs. Near 401 and a quarter. And try to get up to 402, 402.75. Those are upside targets. If we start to lose 400, 399.8, target back to 399. A 397.7 at the bottom of the squeeze. And that daily 50 that we almost tapped down there, 397.75. Tesla, oops. Come on. There we go. Tesla I talked about yesterday in our little pre-market prep in Discord. If it rejects 200 early, target down to 195 at 190. It got down near 192 at those squeeze bottoms, reversed back up to 200 and held great. Now gapping up to that 203.86 was one of the key levels I called out yesterday. You know, if we could keep moving. So let's see if we can hold above 202. Some of these pre-market lows near that 203. We start to give those out, coming back to retest 200 and yesterday's highs. But if we can hold up, I'm looking to make it further through 205 up to 206.82. Any further past that up to 210 where the 4-hour squeeze top sits. And VIX. You know, getting up into this daily squeeze top, now reversing back out of it. We do have a few gaps left behind by VIX. Since Monday was not really a full trading day, you know, I'd kind of count from 20 all the way up to, yeah, basically 21.75 as a big gap to fill. So if we are going to see a dip this morning or downside on this gap up, you know, go down to fill the gap, we'll likely see VIX try to hold that 21.75, get back up to test 22, 22.5, these squeeze tops. But if we can see some strong momentum to the upside early, tech and chips want to lead us, and VIX can get down below 21.5, then looking for VIX to get down to 21, where the daily 8 sits, and then cascade through all of these daily moving averages to try to get back to 20, which will, you know, if that's occurring and we are filling this gap, we'll be greenlighting the upside and trying to engulf this week's selling. So that is pretty much it for today on prep. Hopefully everybody finds this helpful. You know, going to be... Oh, one more thing. It's a free Thursday, so if you're new to Predicted Rates, definitely come in. Join our Discord. There's a link in the description. On free Thursdays, you get to test out our Beast tool on your options charts. Let's see, I could give an example. What was one that we hit yesterday? SPY. Uh-oh. Come on. Nah. Well, basically, we have a tool that you put on your options charts. It'll give you the optimal levels to buy and sell every day. You know, yesterday we hit the 398 put from buy levels down early in the day. Probably doesn't include it because I've updated the tools. Come on. I should have a ready example every time I do this. Come on, come on, come on. Here we go. I'll just pull this over as an example. So we have a system that you load on your options charts. No matter what option you switch around to, it will load up levels to risk against. The levels that are down below, the red and blue one is our main buy zone, this one with no shading. And then there's another zone that is a buy zone with some shading, and sometimes they overlap. Yesterday on this 395 put, early in the morning, it's one of the ones I called out that held its beast level of 14 cents, low of day 13 cents. Tapped it once, tapped it twice, we get the green light to go. Those got up to 40 cents, so, you know, almost a 4x. Actually, they did get to 45 cents, at least in this screenshot. So pretty much a 4x off of our buy zone up to our sell zone. So this is just one example. So if you're new to predicted trades, definitely come check us out. Join the Discord server. You can test out this tool today on your charts. And just a heads up, it's a Thursday. The Thursday options, there's not very much in the beast numbers. So, you know, I'm still going to be calling out and playing today's expiration, but I'm going to be also watching tomorrow's expiration where there's plenty of beast numbers to work off of. So, you know, definitely use tomorrow's options as a gauge today on any options that you might load up where there isn't a beast level. I can say, for instance, on SPY today, on the call side, I don't think there's any beast levels because, you know, they aren't playing Thursday options until Thursday arrives. There's been low volume on those Thursday expiration options. So focus on tomorrow's expiration as a gauge. But yeah, that's it for prep. Thanks everybody for tuning in, and we'll see you in the chat, in the general voice chat and main chat channels today. Good luck, and yeah, we'll see everybody in there.